Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the third live show of Voice Essentials. We're so glad that you could join us. And today I'm gonna get straight to it because I slept through my alarm. So if this is the first time you've been to our show, I'm Dr. Dan. I'm in Brisbane, Australia. It's currently 7 a.m. in the morning. And through a number of reasons, which I may get to later in the show, I overslept my alarm. I usually get up at 5:30 to prepare for the show. 6:30, my wife rolls over and says, "Daniel, shouldn't you be up getting ready for the live show?" So this has all happened very quickly. Almost certainly I've overlooked something which could be really fun during the show. And so I hope you're all ready for a great time. Hello to everyone in LA. It's 2 p.m. on a Thursday. I hope you're all having a great day. In New York, it's currently 5 p.m. So you guys are coming towards the end of your working day and hoping that you've all had a great day. In London, it is, what time is it? It's 10 p.m. on a Thursday. And the special subscriber country we're looking at today. I think we're actually live, so that's it's just been a funny morning. Okay, so I think, let me just double check. If you're watching this, I hope you're enjoying my disastrous start to the morning, because currently I think we're live. I think we're streaming. I've got no way of being able to tell. If you can see us. And I'm trying to see if we can preview the show, and it doesn't seem to be telling me. I'm hoping that we're live. Hang on. What a disaster. Oh dear. Something's wrong. Yes, something is wrong. What's going on? So that's in the chat, and I can't see. it would appear that for some reason I can't get back into that live stream, which is a pain because this has never happened before.
Oh no. See, I'm looking at the YouTube page now. I don't know if you want me to tell you what I'm seeing.
Yeah, can you tell me?
Looks like you're just talking. Oh no, you are live.
I'm
Dan.
live? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But there's just a lag between...
There's just a lag, okay. Let's hope that that's all going to figure itself out and we'll keep going. And let's just pretend the live show has, well, anything can happen when it's live. Let's hopefully get into this and we'll see what the rest of the morning has for us, everyone. But the whole day has started like this and who knows what could happen. So let's go straight to the show. Let's get in.
Sound check. Check 1, check 2. Sound check.
So
Check 1, check 2.
Today is I wanted to very briefly talk about Bob Dylan winning, and because the computer, for those of you who are watching and everything went wrong and funny, my computer just decided to reboot itself, which is just, it's just fabulous. And so what I want to just quickly do, let me jump across here to this shot here. I want to just quickly talk about Bob Dylan winning the Nobel Peace Prize. And the reason I wanted to speak to this, because here on Voice Essentials, we often talk about, music, singing is about communication. It's not about perfect notes. And the wonderful thing about the fact that Bob Dylan has been awarded this prize for literature really speaks to the heart of what we say so often here on the channel. And that is, it's about communication. The beauty of Bob Dylan's work is he's not a technically wonderful singer. For his style, he's brilliant, but it's actually the communication, isn't it? It's the actual the actual text that people have been so excited by, and yeah. And so, if you want to leave a comment and talk us. Give us some ideas as to, well, because there's been a lot of controversy. Should he accept it? Shouldn't he? I think he finally has accepted, would be interested to talk. Let me just, I didn't get to all of the housekeeping a little earlier. So as we go through today, you leave some chats leave a chat in some conversation in the chat section. Today we're going to be talking to a good friend of mine, V from down at Sydney Voice Studio, and she's got a fabulous teaching studio down there. She's doing a PhD. I might get to talk to her a little bit about that. She's doing a PhD, I think, at Macquarie Uni, and also we're going to talk to her about TV talent shows, because she's had a fair bit of involvement in TV talent shows, and she's going to be able to talk to us and give us some insight and some background into what's going on there. So the second piece of news that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to direct you to, and I've put a link in the note sections below, excuse me, is Lady Gaga's isolated SNL vocals. Well, the title here is Prove Again That She Can Out-Sing Your Faves. And I jumped on. I'm always a little bit suspicious, I must admit, about these reports. I jumped on, had a listen, and look, if these vocals are completely undoctored, if it's straight to tape, then it's pretty darn good for a live vocal. So I'd encourage you to jump on and have a listen. I'm not, an overly big fan of Lady Gaga for any particular reason, but I am a fan of people who can actually do this thing called singing live, and not have it completely doctored or not be completely lip syncing. you know, there's something to be said for live vocals, and sadly it's a bit of a dying art. So if that's actually the case, and you might want to leave a comment in the notes sections below to let us know if you think it's all not real. The other thing I just wanted to bring your attention to, and actually this is, well, it's not bringing your attention to, it's the part of the reason why I was late this morning getting myself ready and why my computer is because last night I had the great honour of being elected onto the board of the Australian Voice Association, which is kind of cool. And so the Australian Voice Association is the peak body in Australia for cross pollination between speech therapists, ears, nose and throat doctors and singing teachers, and voice coaches of spoken voice as well. And so that was a great honour to be asked to do that, and I thought I'd let you all know. That was held down in Byron Bay. Now, Byron Bay is about 2 hours south of Brisbane. For those of you most of you who don't know where Byron Bay is, it's sort of like a little country sort of town. It's actually on the most eastern side of Australia. It's the most eastern point. And yeah, so I went down there for the AGM last night, and yeah, wanted to let you all know about that. So that was kind of cool. So let's get on with the rest of the show. Let's jump over and watch. Let me just get this all together. Let's talk about.
Sound check.
Cool.
Check 1, check 2.
Our nerd word for today is talking about the aryepiglottic sphincter. That's right, the aryepiglottic sphincter. Now, what most people refer to it is as simply as the twanger, because it is the most active aspect of twang. Well, it's the most active muscle in twang. So what we've got here, this is, for those of you who have never met Lenny, this is Lenny, my 2.5 times to scale adult male larynx model. And what we've got here, we're looking at Lenny from behind currently. So this would be looking at Lenny from, looking at us from behind. Excuse me. And we've got the hyoid bone here. And we've got this guy here flapping away. This is called your epiglottis. Now, not shown on Lenny is a muscle that sits around the edge of the epiglottis here. And it's called the aryepiglottic fold, or the aryepiglottic sphincter. And it has the ability, generally when you're swallowing food or fluid, your epiglottis just sits all the way down and covers your airway off. But when you create sound, or you're simply breathing, the epiglottis sits up. But when we create twang, and we're going to look at twang next year a little bit more as a part of this show. When we create twang, the aryepiglottic sphincter actually narrows. It brings the epiglottis into like a halfway position, and it creates this space in here called the laryngopharynx. And it's in that space that the clear focused resonance of twang is added into your sound. And so if you ever hear that term, the aryepiglottic sphincter, that's the muscle that's being activated. And so we'll do some exercises next year when we look at, when we do some new shows where we do some isometric exercises and exercise that aryepiglottic sphincter. Okay, so that's our nerd word for today. So let's now jump across to doing an exercise together. And let me see if I can pull up today, and you can see got a very bright light shining in. The exercise I wanted to do with you today is actually just a variation on the one we did last live show. The last live show, we just did a 5-note scale, and we're just going to start on a very straightforward note. So it's just going to be ya. Okay, and if you're at home, you can join in if you like. And ladies, you just wanted to sing up an octave, ya, up there. And you know, excuse me, I'm actually not well, so I'm not going to be able to go up today. But if we start a little bit lower, and I'm a tenor by trade, so for me to be singing ya so comfortably is an unusual experience. So we're going to be going like this. Ya. Now this is exercise 3 on my CD, and you can go and check that out from the links in the note sections below. But what I wanted to look at with this, when we talked about the first exercise, which was ya, we talked about our vocal tract shape and our space and our jaw. We talked about our body alignment. The reason I wanted to look at the next one, and you could be mistaken for thinking, well, isn't it just a small variation on the previous one, where the first one is a 5-note scale, ya, and this one is simply a triad, so we're taking away the second and the fourth note and leaving us with a ya. And on the surface of it, that is all it is. However, it can be interesting how much more challenging it is for the voice to make those slightly larger steps and still keep the whole thing evenly connected. Ya. You can hear how my sick voice today struggles just to make that, navigate that larger step a little easier. Ya, and upper tone, upper semitone. Ya. For those of you who don't know why I'm bending, what I'm doing is engaging these big support muscles through the bottom half of my body to keep everything nice and free up through my back and into my neck. Ya, and again. Ya. And as you're doing this exercise, what you want to avoid, you don't want to find yourself slurring your way through. Ya. You want to make sure you're actually evenly going between the notes, also without ya, yeah, ya. So it's a small variation on the one we looked at a month ago, but it is quite the little extra challenge. And I do encourage you, don't skip. If you've got the CD, don't skip over it. Make sure you work the voice over those slightly larger steps. I hope that's helpful to everyone. Let's jump back over here. And I just saw someone has just joined the 7 Days to a Better Voice, and so let me just back. Well, I just saw that someone's joined the 7 Days to a Better Voice program, and I'm pretty sure that exercise we just did is in that program, and you can find a link down below for that. So let's, without any further ado, let's get over to the part that I actually really enjoy the most, is talking to our guest. And so we'll, let me just fire this off, and then we'll bring V in. Hey V, how are you?
Hello.
Hello, hello. What a crazy morning, hey?
It's been a crazy morning, hasn't it?
Oh, dearie me. Well, the things that happen when you're live,
Exactly.
including, computers shutting down, which is a whole heap of fun. Yay! Okay. So I haven't really introduced you very well because of what happened earlier. And so I do apologise for that, but you have got an awesome studio, the Sydney Voice Studio down in Sydney. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about that. And I can see that I've gone very dark, haven't I? We'll just have to put up with that this morning. I'm trying to match your lovely Filipino skin. And you're also doing a PhD. And we, just for full disclaimer, so that everyone is sort of aware, we've recently put forward a paper for the ICVT conference in Stockholm together. So we're certainly no strangers to each other. But why don't you tell us all a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll get into our main subject that I want to talk about, which is TV talent shows.
Yeah, sure. So I have been singing for a really long time. I absolutely love it, but it's actually teaching that I love the most. Probably like yourself, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
I love how well, I just love everything about it. And so from that love grew a studio here in Sydney, the Sydney Voice Studio, and there are 4 of us who teach in that space, and we help a lot of young singers as well as professional vocalists. So things from musicianship skills and oral skills through to vocal health, vocal hygiene, and taking care of singers who do work. And so I'm also currently doing a PhD at Macquarie University, and that is on singer-songwriters. So I was really interested to hear about what you had to say about Phil because he's one of my favorite singer-songwriters, obviously.
Yes.
And I think it's so true what you say that the primary purpose of singing is for communication and expression and sharing stories, really, and handing those stories down from one generation to the next, and from the person who has experienced it to the person who might be able to relate to it.
Awesome.
So that's pretty much what my research is on.
Okay. And tell us a little bit more about. Well, let's just dive straight into today's topic. You're like, what are we in for, V? So you know that I have in the past had a program called The Fifth Chair, where we looked at TV talent shows in a positively critical manner, and that I've had some concern over the years. But the challenge with talking about TV talent shows is very much, it seems to be a subject that you can create a lot of heated debate, and therefore respect gets lost and whatever. And I've never actually had the opportunity to talk to you because I know that you've had some involvement with the TV talent show. And so I thought it would be awesome for us to have a respectful conversation, and we may even differ on our opinions on this. I don't know. But at least we can respect each other. We can, go into it. So tell us about your experience, and then why don't you outline for us your thoughts on it, because I'm really keen to hear them.
Okay. My experience was with Australian Idol in 2003. So I auditioned in Adelaide.
Which was the first one, yes?
It's the first one.
The
yes.
first one
yes,
in Australia, which is an important point to make too, isn't it? The first of these programs seems to be a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm cutting you off.
There's a lot of I guess hype that goes into it for that first one. But this was also at a time when I don't think Facebook existed. No, it didn't exist in 2003. Social media wasn't on a high. So I think television was still very much one of the largest modes of entertainment for people. Whereas now our audience has so much choice. So instead of watching telly, they might, sit on Twitter or look at YouTube or watch us.
Oh.
So 2003 was certainly a time where it was very new. There was the novelty of that. I auditioned in Adelaide, got through to the rounds in Sydney, and then through the rounds in Sydney, I can't remember what they were called, the boot camps. Got through to the final, the top 40, so not the final.
Okay.
So the top 40 got to perform in front of TV live, and then from that process, got kicked out. So made it to the 40, and so that's kind of my experience of it. I can't say that I got through far enough to know what it would have been like to be in the top 10 or whatnot. But
okay. And so you didn't sort of take it through to the next levels, but I saw you with you had put a photo up on Facebook the other day with you and Shannon Knoll, who came second. So I take it you've had some contact with some of those people that have gone on to participate in the higher levels. Is that a correct assumption, or?
No, with the Shannon Knoll one, I actually just literally bumped into him at an industry party that I was invited to.
Okay.
And so I had a very, very quick chat with him, but I actually only very briefly met him during the whole Idol process. So I hadn't seen him, you know, from then to now. But it was really cool to have a very, very quick chat with him and congratulate him on where he's at. Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
sort of
Let's dive in and talk about, so because you've participated in the process, and when we say you only went through the top 40, I think when Idol first auditioned here in Australia back in 2000, late 2002 and 2003, it was massive. It was massive. I actually went around. I think it was the second year because of how big the first year was. I went around the lines handing out business cards as a singing teacher. We had because I had staff in those days, and we went around at like 5 a.m. in the morning handing out these business cards. I think we got one student from that process. It was a complete waste of time. But so it was massive, and then I think there was like 70,000 people that auditioned. To be in the top 40 of 70,000 is still quite remarkable.
You say it that way. That is kind of cool.
Yeah. See? A pat on your back. And look, I've heard you sing, and there's a good reason why you would get through. But let me just let's drill down to talking about your views of it, and your views of it then, and perhaps now that you do what you do for a living. I think from memory, you've had people that have gone through into other parts of the programs and what have you. Talk me through your thoughts on it.
Where do we start? I have a very 70-30 feeling about it. 70 against 34. I think it is so highly dependent on who goes on it and how their approach is to rejection.
Yeah.
So I think that in shows like that, just the sheer number of people that audition for it, the likelihood of you getting rejected for a spot is so high that you kind of have to go into it with obviously a positive mindset and obviously be prepared. But at the same time, you also need to sink your feet into some reality and say, look, I could have the best voice. I could have worked as hard as I could, but I may not be what the producers are looking for in order to have a successful show. In TV, I think what isn't spoken about as much is that television is about what the audience will like and what the advertisers will pay for and who will generate the most people watching.
Yeah.
So I think those elements come into play quite a fair bit. Why in the world do we see so many stories? And not that they are a bad thing. I think it's actually really good to share stories of singers, if they have had family problems or if they have had health problems or whatever, because essentially a lot of these shows on TV, reality TV shows, are all about connecting real people with real people, I guess.
Yes.
Even though there is that big wall in between where they actually mediate and change and cut things. But essentially that's what they are looking for. They are looking for a package which includes a story, includes obviously great vocal chops if they can get them, a look, a certain style. All of those sorts of things come into play, and I think that where it's 70% wrong to me, I think, is when singers are forced into it because they feel that maybe it's the only way to get into the industry these days. It may seem that way, but it's not. It so isn't. There are so many different avenues. They just have to be resourceful and learn where those avenues are, because those avenues are often more hidden.
Yes.
And perhaps also if they are forced to by, say, family, or there's a little bit of that peer pressure. I've spoken to a lot of singers who have gone on there, and the actual process itself is quite clinical too. You have to kind of be in front of a camera. That's not something that you're used to unless you've had years and years of television experience, and performing in front of that, where you're not performing necessarily to fellow humans. You're
Yeah.
performing to a camera, this thing that is, you know, black and clunky
Yes.
and, well,
Yeah.
they're probably small and savvy now,
Yeah.
but it's not as, you don't get that audience connection that you do when you're performing live. And I think that tends to actually downgrade the skill of the singer quite a fair bit, unless they've had a lot of experience with TV.
Sure. And I've heard Natalie Weiss, and that will be a name known to some people. Natalie, for those of you who don't know, Natalie has a great channel breaking down the riffs. And so I'd encourage you all to check that out. It's a lot of fun. I've heard her speak about her experience, just hearkening back to what you said about the audition process. And she said, because you could fall into the trap of thinking, well, it's so much like, you know, every other audition, you know, music theatre, Broadway. And she said, look, as a person who has auditioned on Broadway and has learnt to cope with the rejection that comes every day from auditioning for music theatre on Broadway, she said, this is so different. There's something so unique about the rejection of the TV talent show. And I'm probably more 95-5 than 70-30. That's, you know, I think I've observed so much damage that comes out of this process. I'm not 100-0 because I completely get that there is a small group. There is such a small group that can really take advantage of the show and garner something out of it for themselves.
Can I interject there, Dan?
You absolutely can.
And you know what, as well, so much of it is luck too. So I might even be persuaded to go 90-10 too. I kind of just called that 70 for a number, but you are so right. And a lot of the time, there even that 5% or even that 10% who might get a little bit of success out of it. It's so rare that it really is that mixture. You have no control whether or not you would be successful on it. And even if you are successful in it, you have no control of what may happen after.
And that's such an important point, V, isn't it? Because that point of you have no control, I think some singers understandably are naive and ignorant to actually how, I went to say how little, it's actually you have no control.
None
So
whatsoever.
on shows like The Voice, that you do not get to choose the songs and you do not get to choose the keys.
That's right.
So,
and you also have no control as to whether or not the musicians actually play the key that you've rehearsed to. So you
bingo, right? You can
stories,
be,
you know.
Yeah. And so sometimes you can see these programs and we can view them and go, that was the wrong choice of song, or why did they sing it in that key?
Absolutely.
The singer had no choice. And what a horrible position to find yourself in front of a national audience. And here in Australia, we only have a viewing audience of 2 million, 3 million at the most. I can only imagine what that must be like in the US when you've got viewing audiences of 40, 50, 60 million people. Can be horrible. Well, there you go. I'm kind of not surprised that that's where you sit with the whole discussion.
But like yourself, the number of success stories that I have heard from it are really low.
Yeah.
Whereas the number of amount of, I think, hurt and rejection and the process of having to process through all of that as a person and as an artist is so high.
Yes.
And a lot of the time, the people that do find success from it often don't find success through the show. They might use the show, and so they should. They should, because at the end of the day, the show has used them.
Yeah.
If they were to use the show as a little bit of a springboard step to go and, you know, build their own website, create their own YouTube channel, get a demo together, and piggyback off the marketing of the show, often that's where they get a little bit of traction for their own stuff, and then off they go. You know, 5-6 years down the track, they're still going. But then for the ones that maybe get a little bit far, or even just the audition process, and sometimes singers, you know, lose sleep for weeks and weeks on it. Yeah.
It's and on that point, and we'll finish on this point because we'll get into the rest of the show. On that point, I think it's really important that to gain that level of traction, because I too I've seen a friend who has gained a lot of traction from participating in The Voice, but he was already working. He was ready and able, and so the moment he got that first call after being booted off the program,
Knew what he had to do. Yeah.
the moment he got that first call from an agent and said, hey, we want a 5-piece in such and such, he went, yeah, can do that. So he was ready. It wasn't they go, oh, we'd like you to do such and such, and the singer goes, oh, I've never done this before. No, he had already been working for 3 or 4, well, in fact, in this case, 10 years, and it was kind of already sitting there just waiting for the right spark. But I do agree with you, V, that those people who enter they're the minority. That's the smallest group, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And for everyone else, it's buyer beware. I really, if I was...
for children, don't.
Definitely not.
Definitely a huge no-no. Just don't even go there. We get the producers sometimes giving us a call. This is probably not going to make me very popular if they watch this, but who give us a call every single time or whenever they put on the auditions for Voice Kids, and we don't even send it out to parents. We did once. Really excited parents and excited kids, and that made me so very nervous. And I said, listen, and like you, I was just send them off, but make it like it's a day to go into the shops. Don't make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
And even with that amount of don't,
yes,
it was quite a hugely negative experience for the children. So,
yeah, and look, I'm the same, V. I get those things through at least 3 or 4 times a year from different groups, different shows. In fact, X Factor actually went to the length of actually personally calling me and saying, "Will you?" And I just said,
Did
"Look."
Did you have a good word with them, Dan?
I said, "Can I send you a link?" And so I sent them a link to one of my 5th chairs, and I said, "Look, if you still think I'm a person to send you, after you watch this link, then by all means come back." But
I might do that as well. Actually, I'll just send them your link.
yeah, yeah, put me in the hot seat with them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there you go. Everyone, I hope that's helpful to you. Some discussion around that. Look, maybe you disagree with us. Maybe you have participated in the shows, and why don't you leave a comment in the comments sections below. Now, we're about to have a listen to a singer, and we're going to critique them and what have you. But now is the time for you to start writing your questions in the comments sections. Because we're about to do a Q&A at the end of the show, and we would love to answer. V's going to stick around. We're going to answer any of your questions to the best of our ability. And so now is the time to start writing your questions and what have you. But for now, let's jump over to our live song review, if I can get this all lined up. And here we go. No, there you go. See, that's what happens. And don't you love live TV? Just love it. Let's see if this will work. Okay, so review time. So let's have a watch now. This singer is a student of mine, and look, I want to say to you, you can participate in this show, and all you need to do is email me. There's an email in the notes sections below, and you can email me, and I can send you some details on how we can have you present your piece. And we usually you'll see in a moment, we're going to play a verse, chorus of a song. And then what we're going to do is we're going to critique, we're going to give some encouraging feedback about what the singer can be doing. And we would love for your song to be a part of the program. And so the only one thing is that we can't have it having been on YouTube before. So it does need to be a fresh piece of music, but it doesn't have to be an original. It can be a cover. And that way you can have myself and the guest on the program critique your song and give you some feedback and some constructive criticism on how you can be improving. And so let's have a listen to, this is Laura Skutenko. She's actually one of my student teachers. I also teach teachers to teach singing. And she's singing this is the second verse, second chorus of that song, Feels Like Home. So let's have a listen, and then we'll come back and V and I will have a bit of a chat about it. Let's try. Let's see if we can get this laid up and get it to behave. It's my Y cast is not playing properly. Let's see if this will work.
Window breaks down along the street, and the siren wails in the night. I'm alright, 'cause I have you here with me, and I can almost see through the dark there is a light. If you knew how much this moment means to me, and how long I've waited for your touch. If you knew how happy you are making me, I never thought that I loved someone so much. It feels like home to me. It feels like home to me. Feels like I'm all the way back where I come from. It feels like home to me. It feels like home to me. Feels like I'm all the way back where I belong. Feels like I'm all the way back where I belong. Thank you.
Okay. So, are you still watching the end of it there, Veronica? Okay. So just let everyone know once again. So Laura is a student of mine. She's been with me for quite a few years, and she's now teaching.
I'm alright, 'cause I have
Now,
you
the
here
background
with me,
has been a journey
and
from
I can
in fact, I just saw a
almost
comment
see
in the comments
through the
asking
dark
about
there
classical
is
singing.
a
Laura's background was classical.
light.
We've
If
taken
you
her on the journey
knew
transferring
how
across from
much
having been
this
classically trained
moment
to
means to
reworking the mechanism to a
me,
more
and
contemporary
how
sound,
long
but
I've
a contemporary approach.
waited
That being
for
so, you can hear
your
some of those
touch.
classical sort of mechanism
If
things
you
coming
knew
through.
how happy you are
Laura's always been very
making
concerned
me,
about
I never
the
thought
vibrato.
that I
Do you know what? And I
loved
don't know where you
someone
sit
so
with this, V, but personally like it.
much. It feels like home to
massive
me.
issue. Now, she was in a
It feels
big
like
band and she's supposed to be being exactly like
home to
some
me.
others.
Feels like I'm all the way back where I come from.
That's
Thank you.
What she is getting in terms of the vibrato might be balanced
Wind
out.
of rain down along the
Sometimes when
sea,
people make a comment about a
and
singer,
the
they comment on
siren
then when that singer
wails
learns to
in
do
the
other things with their
night.
voice, they may not have done that thing that was commented
I am alright, 'cause I have you here with me,
there's that variation.
and I can almost
How
see
someone then expresses
through the
themselves.
darkest
Doesn't make sense, but I
night.
don't think the
If
vibrato
you
is
knew how
especially if
much
she's confident
this
with how she
moment
performs it.
means
But I
to
think that it would probably
me,
be balanced out.
and how long I've waited for your touch.
For me, the biggest one that
If you knew how happy you are
One thing that
making
we did
me,
talk about, and this
I
must
never
admit, this
thought
performance was
that
from
I
in middle year.
loved someone
And so
so
we actually discussed many of these things
much.
already.
It feels like
We
home
did
to
talk
me.
about her
It
vision.
feels like home to me. Feels like I'm all the way back where I come from.
Did you? Yeah, I
It
wanted
feels
to
like home to me.
Yeah, I
It
wanted to
feels
have
like
I
home
think
to
you could have
me.
intensity close.
Feels like I'm all the way back where I belong. Feels like I'm all the way back
But you enjoyed it,
where
did you?
I
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
There you go.
she drew me in. She drew me in.
Yeah.
And I guess I like impressionist stuff. This is probably my very subjective
Uh-huh.
stuff. I love seeing a singer just
Thank
really
you.
lose themselves and look like they've lost themselves a little bit. But that's how I prefer my singers.
Wind
That's
of
that's how I prefer to
down
perfume my singers.
along
Very
the
good.
sea,
Yeah.
and the siren
Maybe
wails
where
in
it
the
didn't quite match up for me
night.
is that she looks so emotional, but then in terms of
I am alright, 'cause I have you here with me,
Yeah.
and I can almost see
Then the other thing
through
we
the
talked about, there was a few flat
darkest
notes in there
If
that
you
just made
knew
her squeezing
how
into
much
some of the
this
phrases, too
moment
much pressure, and the
means
voice
to
just flattened a little.
me, and how long
And look,
I've
she-
waited for your touch. If you knew how happy you are making me, I never thought that I loved someone so much. It feels like home to me. It feels like home to me. Feels like I'm all the way back where I
one of the
come
challenges, this was one of the
from.
challenges of working with
It
backing
feels like home to me. It feels like home to me. Feels like I'm all the way back where I belong. Feels like I'm all the way
just
back
finishing the show with some Q&A. 'cause we've got
where
heaps of questions and what have you on the chat. Any other comments? She's fabulous to have in the studio. Okay, let me
Thank you.
jump over and we'll do some Q&A. No, that's not great to have everyone along for the ride.
I'm alright,
We can
'cause
take first is
I
what
have
exercises
you
are good for
with
correct
me,
intonation.
and I can almost see through the darkest night. If you knew how much this moment means to me, and how long I've waited for your touch. If you knew.
Okay, I think I've fixed that now. Sorry everyone. Remembering I'm a one-man show here trying to direct and choose and everything. So the question just again is what exercises are good for correct intonation?
I'm answering.
Yeah, you go for it.
For me, I quite like, obviously apart from scales and being diligent with doing different kinds of scales. So exploring your majors, exploring your minors, exploring chromatics. Pentatonic scales are really, really important because those patterns are present in most songs that we hear and learn. So I think when your ears become a little bit more acquainted to those patterns, the more that you do them, the more that the moment that your brain picks up on that pattern in an actual real song, the likelihood of you being able to accurately sing those notes is, jumps through the roof. But obviously every song is different and every melody line is different. So apart from exploring different kinds of scales, even different modes, too, dare I say, because I think it's just that it's building that ability to hear and replicate correctly. That's the thing. But I think when it's in a real song, so a really good thing to do is to actually break down the melody line. If you are a singer who can look at sheet music quite easily, looking at the visual representation of those notes can help if you're a visual person, or even just good old putting dots down or having your teacher put dots down, because sometimes kind of, seeing it visually can help you work out, okay, this is the direction of the melody. And then it depends on how bad the pitch is or whatnot, but getting that accuracy per note, and doing it very slow, so that way the brain has a chance to process it and learn it, and then speeding it up. So I think a lot of the time when working with intonation, it's depending on how I hate to say the word bad, but how bad the intonation is. It can take time, and so students have to be really patient with themselves. Even to this day, if I find a melody line that I find really challenging, it will still take me 20-30 minutes of breaking down that phrase. So much to it too. So depending on what the words are can also impact how you hear it, how you sing it, and how you reproduce the notes. So
I'm not going to muddy that piece of great information any. Exactly what she said. For those of you who are interested, I've just recently released a couple of videos on pitch and singing sharp and singing flat and fixing those, and you can jump over to the channel and have a look at that. But everything V just said, spot on. Okay, so let's see if we can find some other questions here. I'm looking. Obviously there was some stuff going on in the background that people weren't happy with. I'm sorry, guys, if there was some things that you weren't happy with.
One here, Dan. I found one.
Yeah, which one?
How easily do vocal cords become permanently damaged?
Oh,
that's a hot topic.
That is a hot topic. Let's answer that.
Yes.
I'll dive in. There's a couple of things there. So, how easily and permanently. They're probably the two things that need to be addressed. How easily? let's actually talk about the idea of permanently first. The idea of permanently is we can do a lot to rehabilitate a voice now. So things that even 20 or 30 years ago that we struggled to rehabilitate, like for example a vocal fold hemorrhage, polyps, even nodules, now kind of considered pretty straightforward rehabilitative processes. When I say straightforward, it often does take months to rehabilitate the voice. It's a journey that I don't encourage any singer to have to take if they don't need to. However, they're not career-ending like we once might have suggested that they were. And so this idea of permanent typically gets put with such things as vocal fold paralysis, cancer of the larynx. That's more the end of permanent. Now, when we go across to the idea of how easily can we do some damage to the voice, actually, it only takes one session of singing on a sick voice. When I say a sick voice, maybe you've got, like myself this morning, maybe you're sick and you're not well, but you've still got to do the gig. And one session of singing when you are sick, and you probably shouldn't have sung, can be enough to cause the voice to have to take that rehabilitative journey of months of reworking and what have you. So to answer the question, how easily can it happen? It can happen very easily. That's in the extreme cases, it must be said, but sadly I've had too many people in my studio who can literally link it back to one session of singing and go, it happened then. So it can happen easily, but the permanency of it is not such a big issue anymore. Do you want to speak more to that, V?
Yeah, look, that's true. Easily, I agree with what you've said. The other thing that I'll probably add is that speaking itself can also, cause damage. And what people probably don't think of is when you're at a sporting match and you've had a couple of beers and you're with friends and everyone's yelling at each other, that could also be grounds for damaging your voice or really tiring it out and compromising it. So I think along with what Dan has said, also consider how you use your voice in speaking environments, how you present your voice when you are talking. Are you using a really clear sound, or are you sort of talking in a very breathy way?
Yeah.
So
such a great point. It's something that singers often don't realize, that 95% of the time you use your voice for spoken sound.
Exactly.
And what you are doing with your spoken activity is the foundation for whatever your voice does when you're singing. It's if you have a poor walking, gait, your running will never be any good. And it's exactly the same with talking. Talking is to singing as walking is to running. You've got to get your walking right first. You've got to get your talking right first. And yeah, what a great point. Really great point. Let's do one more question. Did you see any more in the notes, the questions here below? Can anyone sing whistle tones? I'll let you have the final word. Can anyone sing whistle tones, V?
Look, I have such limited experience with whistle tones that it's very rare that I've actually come across a singer who likes doing it, let alone can do it.
Yeah.
So I don't think so, no. Probably for two reasons. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of tweaking. That's my little girl that you can hear in the background.
Live TV. Love it.
Of a whistle
Love
tone
it.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan?
I think there is evidence to suggest that that whistle tone is not whistle tone is a register space. It certainly sits in a mode. Let me just bring this over here. Whistle tone certainly sits is a recognised register. It sits. Now I've got that music going. You can see that, guys. Stick with me. See if we can get rid of it. I think we've gotten rid of it. So whistle tone, like V, I don't have many students coming in and wanting to do whistle tone. It just doesn't seem to be something that a lot of students want to or need to do. I know it was a big thing during the 80s and the 90s with Mariah Carey, and we all thought that was kind of cool and wonderful, and it was. But it is an extreme register. It sits at the very top of the register, and I don't have a lot of singers needing to access it. So to answer your question directly, can everyone do it? Certainly what I've read about it is no. It seems to be only accessible to some females, and so not the whole female population. And it comes down to the positioning of the vocal folds and how they oscillate in a very particular way. I think there's more research to be done, however. I don't think the jury's in on this one. Look, there is so much that we don't know about the human voice, right? So much that we don't know, and I've just got V back. Is this your little girl, V? Hello? We can't hear you, V. Your audio's off.
Okay, got it.
Oh, there we go.
All fixed.
And what's your little girl's name?
Hi, this is Millie.
Hello, Millie. How are you doing, sweetie? Say hello to everyone all over the world. Your first time on TV. Well done.
Right.
And so
there you go.
that's all right. So I really do think that we need to do more research. There's so much we don't know about the human voice, and it's why it's such an exciting field as a researcher to be in, because there's so many green fields that we just haven't explored yet, and I certainly know that's why V's in this, and we enjoy it so much, and you know, and it's a lot of good fun. Well, I think we might wrap today's show up. I hope everyone's enjoyed the show. We've I do apologise for all of the issues that we had, especially at the very beginning, when it comes to my computer crashing and but we made it. We got through, and V, I very much hope we can invite you back next year and have maybe a less a process that is a little bit smoother. But I really do hope you've all enjoyed the show, and now the next show won't be until February. Let's see, I've got the date written down here, February the 3rd. So I always take the December and January off, and so we'll come back. Hey, look, if you today's show is probably not a great example of my work. It's not my best work, but nonetheless, if you've enjoyed the show, if you want to have a look at more material about learning to sing, jump over to the channel. Make sure you subscribe, and make sure you hit like if you've enjoyed the show as well. Let your friends, your fellow singers know about the show. Each show we do have a different guest. Sometimes I have last month we had a guest artist, and this week we've had today we've had V, a singing teacher. Well, she's a singer as well. And in future I've got plans to have a whole heap of different people next year. So I'd love you to participate. As you can see, anything can happen as a part of the live show. Thanks very much for tuning in. If I don't get to say this before to you between now and Christmas, Merry Christmas. I know it's November. Can you believe it's November? It's crazy. And I really do hope that you all have a safe and prosperous festive season. But until I see you in the next Voice Essentials video, I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.